Jnanatimirandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chaksulamilitam Jaina Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manubhistam Stapitam Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapantantikam. Today we are going to speak on the second verse from Sri Damodar Astakam. Rudantam muhur netra yugman rijantam kadamboja yugmena satanka netram muhu svasakampa trireka kanta kanta stita graiva damodaram bhakti bhadam. Two lotus hands. His eyes are filled with fear, and the necklace of pearls around his neck, which is marked with 3 lines like a conch shell, is shaking because of his quick breathing due to crying. To this Supreme Lord, Sri Damodar, whose belly is bound not with ropes, but with his mother's pure love, I offer my humble obeisances. So, actually the Damodar prayers are based upon the Srimad Bhagavatam's description. Practically all of the literatures written by the Gaudiya Vaishnavacharyas is based upon Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srimad Bhagavatam is the preferred literature of all literatures. Sanatana Goswami has written, Srila Sanatana Goswami has written Brihad Bhagavatamrita, which is basically the nectar drawn from the Bhagavatam. And this verse today that we have just read is derived from a series of verses which we will see from the Bhagavatam. The first one is from 10th Canto, 9th chapter, text 11. When caught by Mother Yasoda, Krishna became more and more afraid and admitted to being an offender. As she looked upon him, she saw that he was crying, his tears mixing with the black ointment around his eyes. And as he rubbed his eyes with his hands, he smeared the ointment all over his face. Mother Yasoda, catching her beautiful son by the hand, mildly began to chastise him. So this again describes the excellence of Krishna's pastimes, which is known as Lila Vishesh. How Lord Damodar is trying to avoid being punished by Mother Yasoda. And our acharyas have explained that the rubbing of his lotus palms in his eyes is for different purposes. Some say that it is for the purpose of making the tears come out more. And by doing so, Mother Yasoda will see how much he is suffering and she will not hit him. Others say that actually the tears were crying and he was trying to brush them away. But in any case, it is a natural characteristic that children, when they become frightened, they do this. And this is one of the special features of Krishna's pastimes, that they are human-like. We don't see in any other incarnation such human-like behavior as was shown by Krishna. You can imagine a little child being frightened in this way. We see, especially in India, how they rub the kajal, the black ointment around the eyes, and so he was smearing this ointment and it was mixing with his tears. And it describes how, because he was sobbing, his neck, which had 3 lines, like a conch shell has 3 lines, his neck was moving, and as a result of his neck moving, the pearl necklace which was on it started to shake, and all the ornaments started to shake. And because also his body was moving as he was trying to avoid Mother Yasoda, all of the ornaments began to move about. Actually, Prabhupada adds some very nice comment in his purport. He says, Mother Yasoda, of course, did not want to chastise her beloved child very much, and therefore she immediately threw her stick away and simply rebuked Krishna, saying, Now I shall bind you, so that you cannot commit any further offensive activities, nor for the time being can you play with your playmates. So, although Krishna is very small, still we know that great powerful demigods like Brahma and Shiva are in fear of him. In the Bhagavatam, 10th canto, we see that Brahma was not very sure about who this little boy was, so he tried to play a trick and steal away all the cows and calves and cowherd boys. Similarly, Indra also was not very clear about who this child was, so he tried to inundate Vrindavan. But in both cases, both Indra and Brahma ended up apologizing and recognizing that they were great offenders. In fact, we know that there is a place across the Jalangi, which is known as Surabi Kunj, which is a place where Indra did penance so that he could make up for this offense, and as a result he was able to behold the beautiful form of Lord Gauranga. And similarly, Brahma also felt very ashamed, because what is his defect? They both have what is called Ishvara Bhav. They think, I am the controller. The residents of Vrindavan do not have this defect. The Brijvasis never think that I am the controller. They don't ever have this sense of false ego. And it's because of this false ego that we're actually unable to behold properly and take part in the pastimes of the Lord. In any case, the demigods ultimately are in fear of Krishna. But just see the position of Mother Yasoda. Simply by raising her stick, not touching him even with it, but just by raising her stick, that person who all the demigods are in awe and fear of, he becomes fearful. So this indicates the position, the supreme position of Krishna's pure devotee. No one is greater than the pure devotee of the Lord. Now, there's another verse, text 14, which is very important in the Bhagavatam, and it describes about Lord Damodar. Of course, the word Damodar means one who is bound with ropes. Now, actually, it is not really ropes which can bind Krishna, and that is one of the lessons to be learned from this pastime, because the Lord cannot be bound by anything material. If he cannot be captured even by the power of great yogis who meditate for thousands of years, then certainly he cannot be bound by any ordinary means. So the word Damodar really doesn't mean one who is bound by ropes. More, it means one who is bound by love, by bhakti. So, in the text 15 it is stated, when Mother Yasoda was trying to bind the offending child, she saw that the binding rope was short. I wanted to read text 14 first. The Supreme Lord, we can read text 15. When Mother Yasoda was trying to bind the offending child, she saw that the binding rope was short. by a distance of the width of 2 fingers. Thus she brought another rope to join it. 16. This new rope also was short by a measurement of 2 fingers. And when another rope was joined to it, it was still 2 fingers too short. As many ropes as she joined, all of them failed. Their shortness could not be overcome. 17. Thus Mother Yasoda joined whatever ropes were available in the household, but still she failed in her attempt to bind Krishna. Mother Yasoda's friends, the elderly gopis in the neighborhood, were smiling and enjoying the fun. Similarly, Mother Yasoda, although laboring in that way, was also smiling. All of them were struck with wonder. And Prabhupada explains that probably there was at least 100 foot or more of rope tied together. And certainly, how big is Krishna's little belly? Not very big. And yet, it could not encircle him. So, there's a word which is important here. Here. Ekala Ishvara Krishna Arasa Britya. Britya means servant. So, Britya Vasyata. He comes under the control of his servant or his devotees. This is a very important theme of this text of Damodar Astakam. But actually, he doesn't come under the control of his servant or devotee. He comes under the control of their love. Not otherwise, of their love. So, hundreds of foot of rope, and yet Krishna cannot be bound. It appears to be a contradiction. At the same time, why was Mother Yasoda thinking that she could bind him? Because previously, when he opened his mouth and she looked inside, he saw the whole universe. So how could she ever think that she was going to be able to bind up someone who within his mouth was holding the entire universe? So in order to make all of these pastimes possible, Yoga Maya has to function. Yoga Maya is the spiritual deluding potency of the Lord. Not Mahamaya, but Yoga Maya, who functions in order to mystify the devotee and help the devotee in the pastimes with the Lord. Now, actually Krishna cannot be bound. Krishna cannot be limited. He is the greatest of all. We hear in the Bhagavad Gita, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram Param. Param Brahma means the Brahman is unlimited in size. So how can that which is unlimited be limited? Similarly, Krishna says, time I am. So time, eternal time, has no beginning and no end. Krishna is Brahman, Krishna is Kala. He can't be measured in terms of time and space. And yet Mother Yasoda was trying to measure him, trying to bind him. So it's not possible. And why was she doing this thing? Because of Yoga Maya. And finally, it became hopeless. She added all the ropes of the household, and nothing would work, so all the ladies started to smile and laugh. Because they were all watching this. The ladies of the house were seeing this, they were enjoying the fun, and they gave up. Mother Yasoda gave up. And when she gave up, then Krishna became pleased by her efforts, and he agreed to allow her to bind him. So, actually, no one can measure God. It is described, Vedesha Durlavam Atma Bhakto. He cannot be understood by Vedic knowledge. He cannot be understood through the Vedas. He can't be bound. He can't be conditioned. He can't be caught. But he can be understood by bhakti. And he can be caught and controlled by bhakti. Just like we see that Arjuna, by his love, is able to subdue Krishna. And Krishna becomes his servant. So this is one of the qualities of God, Bhakta Vatsala. He's very affectionate and dear to his pure devotees, very kindly disposed towards them. There's a word here which is used then in next verses. Then there's some more important verses from the Bhagavatam that further describe this pastime. Because of Mother Yasoda's hard labor, her whole body became covered with perspiration, and the flowers and comb were falling from her hair. When child Krishna saw his mother thus fatigued, he became merciful to her and agreed to be bound. O Maharaj Parikshit, this entire universe with its great exalted demigods like Shiva and Brahma and Indra is under the control of the Lord. Yet the Supreme Lord has one transcendental attribute. He comes under the control of his devotees. This was now exhibited by Krishna in this pastime. Neither Lord Brahma, nor Lord Shiva, nor even the goddess of fortune, who is always the better half of the Supreme Lord, can obtain from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the deliverer from the material world, such mercy as was received by Mother Yasoda. There's an important word here, that the Lord is a deliverer from the material world. So we know that there are different types of deliverance or liberation. Liberation is called mukti, but the word used here is not mukti, but vimukti. So vimukti means special liberation. And this special type of liberation is the liberation which Krishna gives to those who are his devotees. What is that liberation? It begins with dasya ras. In other words, it begins with having eternal relationship with the Lord. It is not impersonal liberation. And specifically, the kind of liberation which is meant here is prema bhakti. Prema bhakti of the type which is found in Vrindavan, as we shall hear more about. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, the son of Mother Yasoda, is accessible to devotees engaged in spontaneous loving service. But he is not as easily accessible to mental speculators, to those striving for self-realization by severe austerity and penances, or to those who consider the body the same as the self. In the Bhagavad Gita it is mentioned, Bahunam janmanamante Gyanamamam prapadyante Vasudeva Savamiti Samahatma Sadurlabhaha. So for those who are Jnana Bhaktas, it is only they can only go as far as Vaikuntha. And that is after many, many, many lifetimes. But the kind of bhakti which is mentioned here is spontaneous devotion. So spontaneous devotion is found in Vraj. And it is especially meant for those who have a very special type of attraction. Mother Yasoda is not an ordinary conditioned soul. She is Nitya Siddha. Nitya Siddha means eternally perfect. There's never a time when Mother Yasoda has ever fallen into the material world. So we should never think that she is Sadhan Siddha. So there are many Nitya Siddha devotees, like Yasoda, Nanda Maharaj, and others. And there are friends of Krishna, Sridham, Subal, and others. And there are the gopis, the young cowherd girls, who are lovers of Krishna. And these are eternal associates. So it is explained that if someone is a sadhaka, if someone is practicing sadhana bhakti, following in the footsteps of these Nitya Siddha devotees, then it is possible to attain this type of bhakti, Vraja bhakti, or spontaneous devotion. Rupa Goswami has explained this in the Nectar of Instruction. Prabhupada has translated, where he says that one must follow in the footsteps of the Lord's eternal associates. So according to who one aspires after, one will gain that destination. If one aspires, if one feels attracted to the mood of Mother Yasoda or Nanda Maharaj, they should not think that they are Yasoda or Nanda Maharaj, but they should meditate on the service and the mood of love that Yasoda and Nanda have for Krishna. And thinking of themselves as the servant of Nanda Yasoda, they can get that type of result. They can achieve that goal. Or if they're attracted by the cowherd boys' pastimes with Krishna, then gradually seeing themselves as the servant of these cowherd boys, meditating on a specific devotee. Rupa Goswami says that we have to meditate on a specific devotee, whether it may be Yasoda or Nanda Maharaj, or it may be Subal or Sridham, or it may be according to if one is attracted to the loving mood of Radha and Krishna and the gopis, being attracted by the maidservants of the gopis, and specifically meditating on these personalities. One doesn't think oneself to be that person, because then it is impersonalism. But one hears about them and gradually aspires that if only I could follow in the footsteps of such a person. And hearing about them and chanting in this way, meditating in this way, then one can achieve this. So Prabhupada mentions that here. He says, the exalted platform of prema is described by Lord Chaitanya as prema pumartha mahan. And Mother Yasoda naturally acts in such an exalted position in loving affairs. She is therefore a Nitya Siddha devotee, an expansion of Krishna's Ladini Shakti. His potency to enjoy transcendental bliss through expansions who are special devotees. Ananda Chinmoya Rasa Pratibhavi Tabi. Such devotees are not Sadan Siddha. Then Prabhupada says, the Vrindavan Vasis, like Mother Yasoda, Krishna's friends and Krishna's conjugal lovers, the younger gopis with whom he dances, have very intimate relationships with Krishna. And if one follows in the footsteps of these devotees, Krishna is available. Although the Nitya Siddha expansions of Krishna always remain with Krishna, if those engaged in sadhan siddhi follow in the footsteps of Krishna's Nitya Siddha associates, such sadhan siddhas also can attain Krishna without difficulty. So this is the process taught by Lord Chaitanya to his followers. Rupa Goswami has explained this very nicely in the Nectar of Devotion. It is outlined very clearly in Chaitanya Chaitamrita. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami also explains it. One very interesting fact which is mentioned here is that Prabhupada says Mother Yasoda is an expansion of Ladini Shakti. Sometimes it is also mentioned that she is an expansion of Sandini Shakti, but here Prabhupada has spoken in a different way, saying that she is the expansion of Ladini Shakti. So that is a very nice point. I've heard this before, but I never saw it clearly written by Prabhupada. And now I just was looking today and I saw this. Because normally it is said that the eternal associates are all expansions of Sandini Shakti. And Radharani and the gopis are expansions of Ladini Shakti. Mother Yasoda is also a gopi. She's an elderly gopi. And Prabhupada says that the Ladini Shakti is the potency to enjoy transcendental bliss through expansions who are special devotees. So he includes Mother Yasoda in this category. So such pastimes enacted by Krishna are especially meant for fulfilling the words of Krishna's devotees. Just like we know that Narad Muni states in the next coming chapter, he says, although these two young men are the sons of the very rich Kuvera, and I have nothing to do with them. No, this is Krishna speaking. Although these two young men are the sons of the very rich Kuvera, and I have nothing to do with them, Devarshi Narada is my very dear and affectionate devotee. and therefore, because he wanted me to come face to face with them, I must do so for their deliverance. So one of the reasons why these pastimes take place is to fulfill the words of his devotee. Krishna always does this, and in this case he has done it. So these are some of the points which are brought out by Sanatana Goswami in this text of the Damodar Astakam. Any questions?
What is the significance of the two fingers short?
Can you tell us? Does anybody know what the significance of the two fingers are?
The effort of the devotee and the mercy.
The effort of the devotee and the mercy of the Lord. Right? Is that what you said? The effort of the devotee and the mercy of the Lord.
Now the question is, when we offer...
Sometimes in some religions they say one can achieve... Hey, turn up the fans another point. Sometimes it is said, turn it 2 more points, that only by effort, and others say only by mercy. But the Gaudiya Siddhanta is both, by effort and by mercy.
When we offer a gilen in the evening for Mother Yasoda and Damodar, how we should meditate?
Hey. It's not even on, I think. When you offer a ghee lamp to Mother Yasoda, how should you meditate? Let's ask our pujaris. Bolo? Oh, let's hear what your meditation is. We want to know, after 20 years more and 20 years in the Dham, who will be more qualified?
I'm very ambitious. When I'm offering the lamp, I'm praying that one day I may be able to see that pastime of Krishna.
Did you hear that? He says that he's meditating on the pastime, praying that one day he will become qualified, that this pastime, he'll be able to see this pastime. Very good. That's the right way to meditate. Pankajangri and Jananivas Prabhu's, let's hear yours. What is your meditation? Now we've heard one brother.
My first part is but let this vision constantly appear in my mind.
Let this vision constantly appear in my mind.
Then I meditate upon everything that Radhaman and Rasa. Guru is the big.
Does anyone else have any other meditation they want to share? I think this is a very good way to meditate. Praying that the pastime can appear within one's heart. I also think like that. Why is Krishna called Radha Damodar? You know?
Because he's found one explanation, which is apparently told by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati by his disciples. He was bound with Radharani's life.
He's bound by Radharani.
Yes.
He came late once to a meeting with Radharani, and so finally he became bound by her, so that he would not escape and not go away. So sometimes Radharani binds him.
Mother Yasoda is finally baffled in time.
This is the Bhaktisiddhanta's explanation. Let's hear it.
She gathered all the robes, all the cowboys gave the robe, everyone gave the robe. Finally completely baffled, all the robes were finished. Still Krishna was inside and Radharani had they tied that arrow with.
Yeah.
She took that out.
Jananivas Prabhu has added that that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's disciples state that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati stated that after all of the ropes were tied by Mother Yasoda and it was still short, Radharani took the string from which tied her hair and gave it to Mother Yasoda, and then Krishna agreed to be bound. Is this an authentic explanation? And therefore he's called Radha Damodar. That's the most satisfying explanation. Another question or comment? There's a very nice description of this pastime in Gopal Champu, which we can also tell on another day. Very good description of how nice this pastime is by Jiva Goswami. All right, then we can stop here. Give everybody time to go down for the arti. Tomorrow we'll do text 3. Every day one text. Jai Sri Sri Radha Damodar ki. Jai.